Welcome to another morning episode of Liberty Dad Podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. For tuning in live, then I especially want to thank you for giving me your time so early. A while back, I made a video about libertarians and whether they should engage in the so called culture war. Many libertarians argue that we should not engage in the culture war. I made the point that virtually all of them already do. And then I went on to say that, or went on to briefly discuss um, my thoughts on the culture war and where we best fit in it. So this morning, I want to briefly discuss that. And then I have an exciting announcement, a new development with the podcast to announce. So I am looking forward to that. All right, we are back and it is Friday. How exciting. And we are going to be discussing, whoops, that's wrong. All right. So this morning I want to kind of just briefly recap on this on the culture war topic that I did a while back. However, before I do that, I actually want to just kind of do a quick bill review, just take a look at something really quickly. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. In fact, you'll find out why in just a moment. That is not even necessary. So I was on Twitter and I saw something that caught my attention. It was a tweet from somebody and it said breaking. Okay. Now, when something says breaking, I'm like, all right, like this is serious business here, right? So, breaking, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds has signed a bill requiring schools to recite the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. Do you support this? And it got a lot of traction, right? Like, I mean, it's breaking, it's a big deal. And this was the other day, actually. So this was September 19th that this was posted. And it's gotten quite a bit of traction. A lot of people chimed in. Libertarians naturally chimed in because we oppose the idea of requiring the Pledge of Allegiance. A lot of libertarians will go on and they will tell you all sorts of things about the origin of the Pledge of Allegiance. It was written by a socialist and so on and so forth. I'm not really going to get into all of that, but I wanted to check out that. And so I was like, all right, well, let's take a look. So here's that bill. We're going to put it up on the screen here. So there we are. All right, and so this is House File 847. Okay, it's not House bill, but it is a state bill. And let me make that a little bit bigger so that everybody can read this. How about that? Yeah, that looks much better. All right. So it says the board of directors of each public school district shall administer the Pledge of Allegiance in grades 1 through 12 each school day. Each classroom in which the Pledge of Allegiance is recited pursuant to this subsection shall display the United States flag during the recitation. A student shall not be compelled against the student's objection or those of the student's parents or guardian to recite the pledge. Okay, seems simple enough. Now, here's the problem with it. One, it's codified in law. That's obviously the first problem. I mean, it's literally a bill that was signed by the governor that requires the Pledge of Allegiance um, to be recited. But there's actually another problem with this bill. Actually, it's not really the bill; it's with the tweet. So let me see if I can pull this up and see if this shows up on the screen just as well. And let's see what we got here. All right, so there we are. I don't know that it's going to show up on the screen so well, but if you look here under bill history, right there, highlighting right there, we're going to see something very interesting. This is from 2021. Okay, so this is not even like this literally can't read it myself because it's a little far away. All right, so there we are. So this bill was signed by the governor on 5/20/21. Okay, this is not breaking news. This is literally old news. Okay. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. And just to kind of show a little bit more, here is a article from 2021, Iowa House bill. Iowa House passes bill requiring the Pledge of Allegiance. We can see here by Trevor Oates, February 17th, 2021. Okay. So this is a little silly that we need to even look at this kind of a thing. Now, don't get me wrong; it is important. It is important to evaluate bills and judge them on the merits of whether or not it is necessary. In my opinion, most bills are not going to they're simply just not going to be necessary. And this one is definitely not particularly necessary. And I don't have it up on the screen, but somewhere in one of the news articles, somebody was saying, I think it was the person who authored the bill or that little section of it. They were saying that this is going to like bring together people of all political persuasions. Well, I can assure you, it will not bring together people of all political persuasions because the Libertarian Party members will not be supporting this. Like, I don't think I know any single libertarian anywhere that supports um, the Pledge of Allegiance in public schools. Now, I particularly don't have, I'm a little bit more ambivalent than some of my peers. I don't have a huge issue with it per se. I don't get worked up about the fact that it was written by a socialist. I don't get worked up that it's pledging allegiance because at the end of the day, nobody really cares. Like I mean, we do it at the ball game. We do, when I was in Toastmasters, we would say the Pledge of Allegiance every single day, or not every day, but I mean every single meeting right before the meeting. And I was quite okay with that because nobody was really punishing me if I chose not to say it or if I mumbled, through the words and was like, pledge allegiance. Or if I just, watermelon, 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 you know what they say. It doesn't really matter. Like nobody really actually hears that. People tend to care when you're at an event and you're rude during it. And I think that's more of a decorum, not really like, hey, you better pledge your allegiance to this country. And if you don't, then you're going to be punished. Like, people get a little bit upset about it, but I don't think people generally really care in the same context that libertarians will make the argument about what you are pledging. I think people just find it rude, and they'll make arguments, but I think they otherwise don't care. And so I kind of don't care either. I mean, look, I grew up saying the pledge every single day. And you know what? Turned out to be a libertarian. So clearly, it did not have the effect of turning me into a socialist. So anyway, so moving on, I just wanted to point that out because I thought that was interesting because I was like, oh, wow, breaking news. And then it turned out it was actually 2-year-old news. So be mindful when you're on social media. The other day I talked about something. What was it I talked about? I talked about something just the other day. And it, again, was, oh, that's right. That was the meme. That was the meme on Monday. And the meme was actually old itself. It was old news. So be careful out there on social media because sometimes you get worked up about things and it turns out it's already old news in the first place. And so let's roll that into talking about the culture war. Again, today I'm kind of wrapping things up a little bit, just kind of touching up on a few things here and there. So the culture war. Back about 3 months ago, I in episode 161, I discussed the culture war and where I believe libertarians fit in. Now, I have a 40-second clip from that episode that kind of summarizes my thoughts. So I'm going to go ahead and I will play that so that you can get a good summary. But I do encourage you to check the show notes, listen to that episode, and give me some feedback. So let's go ahead and play this clip here. That's me. And that is simply to say, look, yes, we should be involved in the culture war, but that involvement should be leading the way and showing people that we can safely ignore some things. We can have a lot of debate on other things, but then when it comes down to it, we need to be very diligent and judicious about the things that we're going to use government to get involved in. And I think that's our place in society. And I think that distinguishes us very much from the Republican and the Democrat parties, because it seems like both of them are fighting like hell to have their way implemented in society. Okay, so basically, I say we should be involved in the culture war, but we should identify things that we can just simply ignore. And we can say, look, like that's not worth our time because as libertarians, we love economics. We understand scarcity, and time is a scarcity. So we only have so much time to devote to things. So we need to be very judicious in what we pick to even talk about in the first place. And then after that, then we can start saying, at least for us libertarians who are not anarchists and advocating for zero government, for those of us who are not there, then we should be saying, like, here's the libertarian perspective on this, culture war issue, on the things, again, the things that we just have determined to be worth our time. And then we can say, do we need government to even be involved? Because sometimes we don't. In fact, I would argue most of the time we don't need government involved. Okay. Now, my anarchist peers would say all of the time. That's a different story for another podcast. At any rate, so what the idea here is that we identify what maybe we need government to get involved in, and what maybe and when we largely don't. And then the question becomes, okay, well, if the government doesn't need to be involved, how does this issue get addressed? Like if it's worth our time even talking about, then how do we address it? Right. So this was my position. And let's be frank, like libertarians, you're already getting involved in the culture war. I see it all the time. I see people that literally post and they'll say, like, oh, libertarians should not be in the culture war. And then, like, I don't know, an hour later, I see a post of theirs and I'm like, "You literally just talked about the culture war. You're literally engaging in the culture war right there. Like right after you said libertarians shouldn't be involved. So come on, let's be honest with ourselves. We're already all involved in it. And so we're there. So now it's a matter of, okay, how do we do it? So what does that have to do with today? Because I have a cool announcement that I'm really excited about. Before I get to that announcement, let's do a couple good mornings. Good morning, Hector. Glad to see you again. And then we also got Shannon Lee. Good morning, fellow busy parents. I'm a mom. Morning mode, but I'm listening. And I feel you. Morning mode here all day. I got my little one right down to the side of me. He's playing with some Legos. Who knows? Maybe he'll jump in on the stream, and he probably won't wave at you guys because I think it's mornings for him too. But thank you everybody again for joining me. So now back to this cool announcement that I have. You may remember a fellow by the name of Tub. We call him Pastor Tub here. He did about 25 or so episodes, actually more than 25. He did about 25 episodes with me. We went over libertarians on 25 issues. It came from a book that was written by a former chair of the Libertarian National Libertarian Party. And in that book, it was like in chapter 3, there were 25 issues. And and he basically in that book puts down like somewhere between a sentence and a very short paragraph of where libertarians generally stand on that particular issue. And these were common issues that have been around for many years and will continue to be around for many years. And so what we did was we said we took each one of those and we made a podcast episode out of it. And we just would talk about it. So we would talk about where libertarians stand on war, where libertarians stand on taxes, so on and so forth. And it was really fun. He would come here in the mornings. We would record, and then we would put that out. Well, he will be coming back. to my podcast. But he's not going to come back every single day. He's going to come back once a week on Fridays. Now, it's not going to be, obviously, it's not this Friday, and it won't, unfortunately, be next Friday, but it will be the 6th. So, starting on October 6th, Pastor Tub is coming back, and we're going to do something that ties in to that culture war that I was just talking about. We are going to do a weekly culture war wrap up. So I'm calling it that's what I'm calling it, the weekly culture war wrap up with Pastor Tub. And what'll happen is I'm going to pick about 4 items from the week that would just kind of been on social media, in the news, what have you, or maybe at least 3 of them, and then one will be like kind of like an obscure one that maybe didn't get much attention. And then what's going to happen is Pastor Tub is going to determine if though each one, whether or not he believes that libertarians should ignore that item, like that's a culture war thing, and should they ignore it or should they discuss it? And then we're going to further discuss, if we determine that it should be discussed, is that something that may require government or maybe not? And then, of course, if yes, then how little? Okay, so I just want to be clear, libertarians that are listening to me. When I suggest that government may have involvement in things, it's not it's not a factor of or a matter of how much. It's a matter of how little. Okay, so let's be clear. I don't want to get in trouble with my peers. And then, if no, then how should society address this issue? Now, the reason that I wanted to bring Pastor Tub on is because, as we probably all know, religious people tend to be very vigorously active in the culture war. And Pastor Tubb, in my opinion, does a very good job of balancing libertarianism and his Christian faith, in a way where he does not actually try to subvert libertarian ideas and say, okay, well, but this thing that I believe is the exception. No, I think he does a very, very good job. So I looked at it and I said, if the good pastor doesn't believe that something is worth our time, then should libertarians? Because many libertarians aren't particularly religious, right? So we don't necessarily have this religious investment in, like, say, the morality of the country per se. So if the good pastor doesn't believe that it's worth our time, then why should libertarians? So that's what's going to be happening. I'm very excited to bring him back, because it's always fun to have Pastor Tub on, and he presents new ideas, things that I haven't thought about, and this will be a good opportunity for libertarians to watch and say, okay, well, these guys have identified this thing, and they've determined that maybe it's not worth our time, so therefore, I'll stop talking about it, or I'll give it, if nothing else, maybe you just give it a little bit less attention. All right. So that's what's going on, folks. I hope people are as excited as I am. If not, hope you get excited about that, because I think it's going to be a fun development in this podcast going forward. We will do it at 7 a.m. So if you ever meet Tub, please thank him, because he was like 7 a.m. and I was like, yes, sir. 7 a.m. He's like, all right, I usually get up about like 7 a.m. But for you, DL, because you're so awesome, kind of putting words in his mouth, because you're so awesome and great, I'm going to get up early enough to be on your podcast on Friday mornings at 7 a.m. That's basically what I remember of the conversation. He may remember it a little bit differently. That's okay. All right. So that's that. That's the big announcement. The second announcement is a little bit, it's a little bit smaller, but it's kind of, significant, if you will. So I've been watching the whole Russell Brand issue right now. I'm not going to comment on Russell Brand because I don't know. I've just kind of been observing the conversation that's been had on social media. I don't know if he is guilty or not. But what I do know is that it seems that people are treating him as if he is guilty already. And I have a problem with that. I don't like the idea that we are punishing people before we've determined guilt. And what happened recently was on YouTube, they demonetized his channel. Now, he's only been accused. Doesn't matter whether it's credible or it's not credible. It's still an accusation, and it still needs to go through the rigorous evaluation of whether or not an accusation is true and whether there's evidence to support it. It has to go through all that, and it hasn't went through that yet. And yet, YouTube has demonetized him. So as I'm checking things out, I saw that Rumble, they were requested by the UK Parliament to potentially. It was one of those wordings from, if you read the letter, and you can go and see my tweet on it. They worded it in a way so that they weren't directly asking Rumble to demonetize him, but they were kind of like, he's being investigated, or he's under scrutiny right now, and you may want to check this out because golly gee, it could be a bad thing, if this guy turned out to be guilty, and then you're platforming him. Is kind of like the language that they use, but they never directly say you need to do this, right? And then Rumble basically sent a letter back, and they said, yeah, no, we're not. This is he's not guilty yet, and we don't always agree with things that our content creators do. That's not who we are. We're not here to police them in their personal lives. So I appreciate that, from Rumble. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move over to Rumble. Now I don't know if I'm going to move entirely. I'll stay on YouTube for the time being. It is a big platform, so I will stay there. But what happens is I'm using StreamYard right now, and StreamYard allows me to feed into it and then spread to 3 different platforms for the particular plan that I have. And I don't have any intention of upgrading the plan. So that means right now I am streaming to YouTube, I am streaming to Twitter, and I'm streaming to Facebook. So if I want to stream to Rumble, one of those will have to give. I'm still trying to figure out whether or not I want to just simply upload to Rumble at a later point, or if I want to drop one of the other ones. If I do drop one of the other ones, it will probably be Facebook because I'm just simply much less active on Facebook. Um, and so I will probably, if I do this, if I stream directly, I will probably end up streaming to Rumble, Twitter, and YouTube. I don't know just yet. I'm still working that out. I think for the time being, I'll just upload my videos so that I can kind of get acquainted with Rumble, and I'm not going to worry too much. But I will be on Rumble. I've already got an account set up. So I will be on Rumble. You will start seeing videos pop up as of next Monday. So if you are an avid user of Rumble, once I get this, once I kind of get the channel set up and everything, I will be putting out the details, and then you can you can go over there and find me. But what I would like from people is, hey, if you have a preference, like, where do you watch me from? I know you can watch me from those three platforms, and you know, I don't want to lose anybody that's, especially anybody that's getting up live to watch me. Like, that would be terrible. So just kind of let me know. Um, let's look through some comments. Excuse me. Let's look through some comments here and see what we've got before we close the show out. It's going to be a short show today just because I just kind of wanted to put out a little bit of information. And as I go along, hopefully things are going to get better and better. I'm looking at different ways of doing the stream so that it looks nicer, so that I have more information, so on and so forth. So keep watching, folks. And if you have any ideas, whatever, throw them at me and let me know. All right, so let's see here. We've got maybe YouTube is concerned about reputation, but if they are, uh, ask it to others to deplatform. That's not. No, I agree. I think asking somebody here, I've known people that will be on Facebook and they will say, "Hey, I don't like so and so anymore. I'm no longer their friend. Will you unfriend them?" And I'm like, "No, no, that's crazy. I don't do that." Asking, the UK Parliament asking Rumble to deplatform somebody who is not even yet found guilty, that's just the corporate version of that behavior. It's literally corporate uh, catty mean girl behavior, and it's ridiculous. Like, we should not be engaging in that whatsoever. We shouldn't support it, and so I want to make sure that I support Rumble for taking that stand and saying absolutely not. Go pound sand. So. All right, folks. I will I will let you know what else is going on, but otherwise, I think that's going to be a wrap up for the show. I want to thank you for watching. Stumbled through it a little bit this morning. Maybe that coffee hasn't kicked in just yet, but I do hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you're excited about some of the developments that are coming, and I hope you keep watching because this show is going to get it's only got up to go, right? I'm just going to get better and better at this. So be sure to catch me every Monday morning, every morning, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern time for an informed discussion on politics and culture. And then catch me on Sunday evenings at 7 p.m., where I bring on a co-host, Susan Hogarth. Now I know people have reached out and they're like, DL, have you seen her feed? She's rough. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. She is not me. And that's why I brought her on, because I want to try to have a healthy balance to discuss LP happenings, what's going on in the Libertarian Party. So we are going to get together on Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. to discuss what we find is happening in various affiliates around the country. This could be a local affiliate or it could be a state affiliate. Sometimes we will bring on guests to talk about what's going on. And be sure to do all the proper audience actions, like subscribe to my YouTube channel and soon Rumble, um, over at youtube.libertydad.com. I will get a Rumble link as well. Please ring the bell, like the videos, drop a word or two in the comment section. And if you want to follow me on social media, you can do so at Liberty Dad on Facebook. Much better for Liberty Dad Pod on Twitter, where I am at most of the time. Or you can go old school and email me, libertydadpodcast@gmail.com. Would totally love to hear from you. And remember, if you're a champion of liberty, your business is people and your product is liberty. I want you to have a great week. Catch you next time, and I'm out.